So it's time for More Money with Matt Moore and Jay Money. It's the NBA, so naturally a handful of teams that look totally different than a year ago, perhaps most notably the Bucks and Clippers. Matt, who wins more games this season, the Bucks or Clips?
I'm gonna go the Clippers. The Bucks are struggling right now, and I think they're gonna struggle for a lot of the regular season. Like, this is an aging core, right? You've got so many players over 30, and then Giannis, who's got a lot of miles on him. And this team clearly doesn't know how to play together right now. They are one of the worst teams in the league in transition. That's often as a result of turnovers and defensive lapses in communication. We're seeing that this isn't really the same team that we've seen from the last couple of years in Milwaukee, not just because of Dame, but in terms of their overall cohesiveness, especially on the defensive end. I think there was probably more of a downgrade from Mike Budenholzer to Adrian Griffin than people were really prepared to answer as far as that in preseason because of the way that people considered Bud. I will say that it's likely that the Bucks will probably go further in the playoffs than the Clippers, one, because of how loaded the Western Conference is, and two, because the Bucks do have time to figure this out. But if we're talking about regular season performance, I think Milwaukee's going to be in a much tougher spot versus the Clippers, who, look, they will have to get used to James Harden. They'll have to make adjustments, but this is a deep team, and I do like the way that they've played this season overall. I think the Clippers will actually wind up winning more games.
Jay, how do you feel?
Yeah, I actually agree with Matt there. I think the Clippers have a higher ceiling. They have more players that they can kind of mix around. Obviously, with teams doing load management as well, they have a big four over there. Which, in my opinion, the Bucks really kind of have a big two over there. But the Clippers have a high ceiling as long as James Harden can be a pass first point guard. In my opinion, he has to be a system player, Harden, even though he doesn't like to call himself that. But as far as the Bucks, they have to make a change to their starting rotation. In my opinion, their defense has been so bad because you can't start Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley together, in my opinion. So until they make a change to their starting lineup, maybe throw Jay Crowder in there. We're not going to see their full potential until they make a change.
Yep, it's a good point. Let's talk about the West specifically because there have been some surprises. We'll look at a few teams, and why don't you guys tell me whether it's true or false that they are playoff caliber. So first, the Wolves are currently in fourth at 4-2. We're a play-in team last year. They will comfortably get in. True or false, Matt?
True. Lock it in. Lock it. True. I love this Wolves team. We loved him in preseason, and that's why it's true, because it makes me look smart from what I said in preseason. Look, this team is the best defense in the NBA this season. They've also faced the toughest defensive strength of schedule per dunks3.com. So they're getting it done versus good offenses, and you saw that again versus the Boston Celtics this week. They are playing phenomenal basketball. I think Chris Finch is a good coach to look at for Coach of the Year, and his odds in that market, we talked about in the podcast buckets this summer in our Coach of the Year podcast. Anthony Edwards is playing absolutely phenomenal for them every night. He's the guy that they need. Karl Anthony Towns, even when he has bad nights, will wind up contributing, and his numbers are an overall plus. They're deep. They're versatile. Naz Reid's a beast off the bench. I think this is going to be a top 4 seed. I think they have home court in the first round.
Matt is saying lock it in. Jay, do you agree?
I also agree here. Me and Matt, we don't usually agree like that, but we are today. I love this Wolves team. I've been on them actually for the past couple of seasons. They're finally healthy. I mean, last year in the playoffs, Naz Reid and Jay McDaniels both got hurt. Now they have everybody back. Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert as well, and Anthony Edwards is also a true MVP candidate. Like, he has an outside chance to win the MVP in my opinion here. So I'm really high on this Timberwolves team. Like I said, I've kind of been high on them for the past couple of years, but they're finally starting to put it together now. If they stay healthy, I definitely think they could be a top 3, top 4 seed in the Western Conference.
All right, next up, the Mavericks. They missed the playoffs last season. I know you remember that. Pretty shameful, right, Matt? But they are surprisingly in second place at 6-1. They stay in the playoff mix easily. True or false, Matt?
Easily is tough, but in the playoff mix is probably true. I will give them a soft true. They have faced nobody. Their only real test was versus the Nuggets, and they got stomped. But that may be who the Mavericks are this season, where they just win versus the bad teams. And if you want the numbers on that, you can probably feel pretty good about their playoff odds, because if you finish with a 75% winning percentage or better versus teams under 500, that's only really, by the way, 60th percentile over the last 11 years. If you perform that way, 76-1 make the playoffs. Like, that's how you get in. You just beat up the bad teams and you can make it into the playoffs. Going somewhere is more difficult. But I will say Kyrie Irving's playing fantastic. Derek Lively is the center that Luka Doncic has needed to play with the last couple of years. I like their balance. They still have some trade options with Tim Hardaway Jr. They're a little fragile in terms of the makeup of the roster. If Lively gets hurt, that's going to really hurt them. I haven't loved the way that Luka Doncic has played to start the season, honestly, but they're getting pretty good balance. They're 15th in defense versus a soft schedule. That's good enough. I will give them a pass for now, but they better hold this together because things can slip pretty easily for them.
Jay, are they the truth?
I'd say I wouldn't say easily make the playoffs here, but I do think they can be a little bit better defensively. I'm not a believer of Kyrie or Luka defensively, in my opinion. But if this team can stay healthy, and if Kyrie and Luka can continue to get along with each other, we know that's always a huge question mark there. I definitely think that they can make the playoffs. Maybe a play-in tournament type of team, but I definitely think that they make the playoffs. We know that Luka is a real superstar in today's league, but you have to stay healthy because any injury to Lively, like Matt said, they're really thin at the backup center position, and then Luka and Kyrie are already dealing with injuries as well this early in the season. So if they can stay healthy, they definitely have plenty of potential.
Okay, one more for you. The Suns sit in 9th place currently, 3-4. Obviously haven't been fully healthy. They'll be fine and get into the playoffs. True or false, Matt?
False. This is going to be a battle for them. I'm not saying that they can't get in, but I do think this team's going to struggle a lot more than we kind of expected to start the year. Well, some of us, my co-host Brandon Anderson, actually bet them to miss the playoffs outright on buckets. I will say that Yusuf Nurkic, the downgrade from DeAndre Ayton is real, and you're already starting to see that. All of the no, Nurk's going to be better than Ayton was. Now all of a sudden you're seeing fans, Suns, and commenters being like, hey, so Nurk's not really good. And everyone's like, no, he's not. That's been the case for some time. The injuries are really the key issue here. You're starting off with a lot of injuries, which means Kevin Durant has had to play more, which means there's a more of a toll on Kevin Durant's body when he's had trouble staying healthy to begin with. So you have already this kind of hole that they've dug. There's no real return date on Devin Booker. Beal could play as early as tonight. We'll see whether he goes, but Beal's been in and out of lineups continuously as well. And the depth hasn't been as good as Phoenix has wanted. And it really kind of makes sense where this depth was built to play around those three, not to replace those three if they have to miss time. And so that downgrade, I think, is pretty significant. The record is actually, I think, a little bit better than maybe they are. And so this is definitely a team, I think, it's going to be a lot more of a struggle unless things just absolutely swing their way in terms of injury health the rest of the season, which does not look to be the case from how things started.
What about you, Jay?
I have a lot different feelings of the Suns. I don't think there's any way that they miss the playoffs. Personally, I think that that's a donation. This is actually my number one seed in the Western Conference. I love that they're big. I love their big three if they stay healthy. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. Beal and Booker especially are very hungry. We've seen Booker elevate his game every single year. Them adding Bradley Beal, them adding depth to the bench as well. I think this Suns team is very underrated. We haven't really seen them play with all their guys just yet. I don't want to say too much because I'm glad that people still don't think that the Suns are that great, but this is definitely a top 3 team in the West, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found their way in the NBA Finals this year.
Finally, we get a disagreement. Some spice on the program. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. But we obviously have a lot of games on tonight, so let's switch gears. One of the games is Warriors-Nuggets. Matt, why is this matchup significant in your eyes?
So we'll see if Draymond Green goes in this game. He's questionable with a personal issue, and usually that means that they're going to go ahead and miss time. Jamal Murray's out with a hamstring. He's going to miss probably significant time, several weeks, in fact, is kind of the word around the Nuggets. But still, this is a real matchup because the Warriors have obviously been the dominant team over the last decade in the Western Conference. And they're off to a good start record-wise, but there's been some blemishes underneath. And the biggest problem is just that they're not very big. They are whittle-biddle. They are very, very small. And this Denver team is the exact opposite. This Denver team is massive. 6'10", power forward, Michael Porter Jr., 6'9", power forward, Aaron Gordon. Jokic is as big and as bad as ever. And so that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch tonight. The other thing that'll be kind of interesting is they've actually lost the minutes in terms of point differential with Steph Curry and Draymond on the floor. That's a really weird stat. Now, it's small sample. It's early. Big swings happen. But I'm very curious to see if Draymond plays, how that plays out. Can they win the minutes tonight versus in the Jokic minutes? Because that's been Steph's rotation to begin this season. Chris Paul's been dominant versus second units, and the Denver second unit is shaky at best, especially without Jamal Murray. This should be a great game. But I think, really interested to see how the Warriors combat the Nuggets size, because it's given teams like the Lakers and the Mavericks a lot of trouble. To that end, what does size lead to? Rebounds. I like Michael Porter Jr. over 6.5 rebounds tonight. Whenever he plays more, he picks up rebounds. And when he plays more, he gets more shots. And when he gets more shots, honestly, he gives more effort in getting to the boards. And so I'll take 6.5 on the over on MPJ rebounds tonight. That's my best bet for this game.
Interesting. Jay, anything that you would bet on this game, or just any thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, I wanted Draymond to be in there. He is going to be out for this game, unfortunately. The Warriors have played way too many road games in a small sample size. Seven of their last 8 games have been on the road. They've been traveling all over the place, so they could possibly run out of gas in Denver tonight. But it was a game that I ended up staying off. I have one that I like a little bit better than it.
Is that so? What might that be?
Yeah, I'm all over the Cavs tonight, -2. They finally have their full starting 5 back. This is a team that I'm really high on as like a sleeper in the Eastern Conference over there. They're also avenging a loss of early this season. It was their second game of the season as well. They lost 105 to 108 at home versus this same Oklahoma City Thunder team. They didn't have Darius Garland and didn't have Jared Allen. They are back tonight, and they have more rest before and after this game. Thunder also have a tournament game coming up as well. So possibly a little bit of a look ahead spot for the Thunder, their last game before heading out on the road. I like the Cavs to put things together in this one tonight and possibly win by double digits.
Guys, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in our Action Network NBA Slack, somebody was inquiring about Donovan Mitchell maybe being a scoring champ. I just checked. Apparently, he's tied for second in the league. Oh, I'm sorry, tied for first in the league in scoring. So pretty impressive. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on the Cavs tonight. Jay Money, Matt Moore, thanks so much.